The Council's cruelty. The Galactic Council was a powerful and feared organization that ruled over many planets. They had control over countless worlds and were known for their strict laws and harsh punishments. But nothing could have prepared the galaxy for their latest act of cruelty. One day, the Galactic Council decided to capture a human child from a small, peaceful planet called Earth. This child, named Emily, was just 7 years old. Her family lived in a quiet colony far from the Council's reach. The Council's agents came in the dead of night, swooping down on the unsuspecting planet with their advanced ships. They took Emily from her bed while her parents were asleep, leaving behind only confusion and fear. Emily was taken to a dark, cold facility deep within the Council's territory. This facility was hidden away from public view, designed to keep its dreadful activities a secret. The Council had a twisted plan. They wanted to use Emily in their experiments. These experiments were part of their quest to understand and dominate other species. They believed that by breaking down a human child, they could discover ways to control and subdue humans. The Council's scientists and officials were not concerned about the child's well-being. They saw her only as a tool for their research. They subjected Emily to painful tests and procedures, trying to manipulate her mind and body. These experiments were meant to be cruel and inhumane, intended to cause maximum suffering. Emily's cries and pleas went unheard, lost in the cold, sterile halls of the facility. The Council's actions were broadcast across the galaxy through their own communication networks. They wanted to show their power and instill fear in other species. But instead of causing fear, their actions sparked outrage and sorrow. Many beings across the galaxy were horrified by what they saw. The news spread quickly, and soon, the entire galaxy was talking about the Council's brutality. On Earth, the news reached every corner of the planet. People were shocked and heartbroken. Emily's family, who had been left behind, were desperate for answers. They could not understand why their daughter had been taken or why she was being tortured. The entire human race felt the pain of Emily's suffering. The story of the child's ordeal became a rallying cry for Earth's leaders and its people. The Galactic Council had expected their actions to be a show of strength. Instead, they had underestimated the power of empathy and the drive for justice. The suffering of one innocent child had united humanity in a way that no other event had. People from every nation and every background joined together, fueled by anger and a desire for revenge. Human leaders and military commanders held urgent meetings to discuss how to respond to the Council's cruelty. They knew they could not let this act go unanswered. Plans were made and strategies were drawn up. The entire planet focused its efforts on preparing for a counterattack. The Council's brutal actions had awoken a determination in humans that would not be easily quelled. Emily's story became a symbol of the human spirit's resilience. Her name was spoken with reverence and sorrow, and her plight was remembered as a turning point. The Galactic Council's attempt to crush humanity's spirit had instead sparked a fire of defiance. The galaxy would soon see the consequences of their cruelty as Earth prepared to make its response. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated humanity's strength and unity. Emily's suffering had not only revealed the Council's true nature, but had also set in motion a chain of events that would change the galaxy forever. The stage was set for a dramatic and fierce confrontation, driven by the desire to avenge one innocent child's pain. Earth's fury. When the news of Emily's suffering reached Earth, the entire planet was thrown into shock. The Galactic Council's cruel treatment of the young girl stirred deep anger among humans. This was not just about one child. It was about a profound injustice that demanded a response. The rage that followed was intense and unifying, transforming the way people thought and acted. Across Earth, reactions varied from disbelief to rage. News reports, social media, and public forums were flooded with discussions about the Council's barbarity. People from every country and community were united in their outrage. Emily's story quickly became a symbol of the Council's cruelty, igniting a worldwide call for justice. Earth's leaders, initially stunned by the horrific news, were soon met with the passionate demands of their citizens. Governments around the world faced immense pressure to act. Public protests and demonstrations grew larger by the day, with people demanding that their leaders take decisive action. The shared anger and grief over Emily's fate had created a rare moment of global solidarity. In response to the rising fury, the United Nations and other international bodies convened emergency meetings. They debated how best to respond to the Council's actions. The discussion was heated, with many leaders advocating for immediate and forceful action. It was clear that the world was not ready to accept the status quo or be passive in the face of such cruelty. The military and scientific communities were mobilized rapidly. Earth's most brilliant minds were called upon to develop strategies and technologies for retaliation. The task was monumental, but the drive to avenge Emily's suffering provided a strong motivation. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to enhance existing weapons and develop new ones that could challenge the Galactic Council's advanced technology. The global focus shifted to preparing for conflict. Earth's resources were redirected towards building and stocking up on military equipment. Countries shared their technological advances and military expertise, breaking down traditional barriers in the quest for a common goal. The preparation was not just about war. It was about showing the Galactic Council that humanity would not be subdued. Public morale was at an all-time high, with people from every walk of life coming together. Volunteers signed up for military service, and civilian support for the cause was unwavering. The determination to defend their honor and seek justice for Emily transformed every corner of Earth. The mood was one of unified resolve, a rare sight in a world often divided by differences. Leaders worked to keep the public informed and motivated. They held press conferences, broadcasted updates, and spoke about the importance of their mission. The focus was on unity and strength, and leaders made it clear that the entire planet was united in its response to the Council's cruelty. Behind the scenes, military strategists and diplomats were busy crafting plans for retaliation. The Council's actions had forced Earth into a position where it needed to act decisively. The strategy was not only about military might, but also about making a statement to the galaxy that humanity would not tolerate such injustices. The preparation phase was intense, filled with both anticipation and anxiety. Everyone knew that the response had to be precise and powerful. The Galactic Council had underestimated the depth of human resolve, and Earth was determined to show the Council the full extent of its power. As the days turned into weeks, the urgency grew. The Council's cruelty had created a pressing need for action, and Earth's readiness was a testament to its determination. The entire planet was on edge, waiting for the moment when humanity would finally make its move. The preparation and planning were almost complete, and the world held its breath in anticipation of the coming confrontation. Emily's fate had set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of history. Her suffering had sparked a global uprising, and Earth was ready to respond. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake, and now humanity was preparing to show that it would not be cowed or intimidated. The stage was set for a powerful and decisive retaliation that would make the Council regret ever crossing paths with Earth. Preparing for battle. As Earth's resolve to avenge Emily's suffering solidified, the planet plunged into a state of intense preparation. The Galactic Council's cruelty had awakened a fierce determination among humans, and now they needed to transform their anger into effective action. This preparation phase was crucial for Earth to make a powerful statement and ensure they were ready for the looming conflict. The first priority was to gather and assess Earth's military resources. Military leaders and strategists from around the world were brought together to form a unified command. They worked tirelessly to evaluate existing weaponry and identify the best ways to enhance it. The goal was clear. Earth needed to develop advanced technologies that could challenge the Galactic Council's superior defenses. Scientists and engineers were called upon to accelerate their research. Laboratories and workshops across the globe were filled with activity as teams worked on improving weapons and creating new ones. This included developing more powerful spacecraft, stronger energy shields, and advanced targeting systems. The objective was to ensure that Earth's forces could compete with the advanced technology of the Galactic Council. In addition to technological advancements, Earth's leaders sought to forge alliances with other alien species. They reached out to races who had suffered under the Council's rule or who were sympathetic to humanity's cause. Diplomatic efforts were stepped up to build a coalition of like-minded species. These new allies could provide valuable support and share their own technologies and strategies. On Earth, the military underwent rigorous training and exercises. Soldiers and pilots practiced with the new equipment, honing their skills in simulated combat scenarios. The goal was to ensure that every member of the armed forces was prepared for the harsh realities of battle. Training camps became bustling hubs of activity, with a sense of urgency driving everyone involved. The public's role in the preparation was also significant. Citizens from every country contributed in various ways, from volunteering in support roles to helping with resource gathering. People were motivated by a shared sense of purpose, and their contributions were essential in sustaining the massive effort required for the upcoming conflict. Military planners focused on devising effective strategies for the initial strike. They studied the Galactic Council's known defenses and vulnerabilities to create a plan that would maximize their chances of success. The strategy involved a combination of surprise attacks, coordinated assaults, and targeted strikes on key Council assets. The aim was to disrupt the Council's operations and weaken their grip on power. Simultaneously, Earth's leaders worked on psychological operations to prepare their citizens for the realities of war. They communicated the importance of the mission and the need for unity and resilience. The public was kept informed about the progress of the preparations and the upcoming battle. Leaders emphasized the necessity of staying focused and supportive during this critical time. As the preparations advanced, the sense of anticipation grew. Earth's forces were nearly ready, and the final touches were being added to the plans. The global effort was reaching its peak, with every resource and every person contributing to the cause. The determination to retaliate against the Galactic Council's cruelty was palpable, driving everyone forward. The final days before the battle were filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Earth's forces stood on the brink of a historic confrontation. The extensive preparations had equipped them with the tools and knowledge needed for the fight ahead. Now, it was time to put their plans into action and show the Galactic Council the full force of humanity's resolve. Emily's suffering had catalyzed an extraordinary mobilization of Earth's resources and spirit. The world was united in its mission to respond to the Council's cruelty. The preparation for battle was a testament to humanity's ability to rise in the face of injustice. As Earth's forces prepared to launch their counterattack, the Galactic Council would soon face the consequences of their actions. The stage was set for a dramatic and decisive clash that would reshape the galaxy's future. The first attack. After weeks of intense preparation, the moment had finally arrived. Earth's forces were ready to make their move against the Galactic Council. The meticulous planning and relentless training had led to this crucial point. Now, it was time to launch the first attack and show the Council the strength and resolve of humanity. In the early hours of the morning, as the galaxy's darkness blanketed the space between planets, Earth's fleet moved into position. The ships were sleek and advanced, a testament to the hard work and innovation of Earth's scientists and engineers. Each vessel was equipped with the latest weaponry and technology, designed to strike hard and fast. The attack was planned to be a surprise. Earth's military commanders wanted to catch the Galactic Council off guard, hitting their outer worlds before they could mount an effective defense. The outer worlds were less fortified and more vulnerable, making them the perfect targets for the initial strike. As Earth's fleet approached the Council's outer territories, tension was high among the crew members. They had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put their skills to the test. The ships moved silently through space, cloaked in advanced stealth technology to avoid detection. The fleet's mission was clear: strike swiftly and decisively. At the designated moment, the attack began. Earth's ships emerged from their stealth mode and unleashed a barrage of energy beams and missiles. The surprise was complete. The Council's outer worlds were caught off guard, their defenses unable to respond quickly to the sudden onslaught. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the human fleet's weapons found their targets. The initial wave of the attack was devastating. The outer worlds, which had been peaceful and quiet just moments before, were now engulfed in chaos. The Galactic Council's military forces scrambled to respond, but the speed and intensity of the assault left them struggling to mount an effective defense. Ships were destroyed, cities were reduced to rubble, and the Council's ability to control the region was severely weakened. Earth's fleet continued its assault with precision and coordination. Each ship followed its assigned targets, ensuring that the damage was widespread and effective. The fleet's commanders had carefully planned the attack to maximize its impact, hitting key infrastructure and military installations. The goal was not just to cause destruction, but to send a clear message to the Galactic Council. Humanity would not tolerate their cruelty. The Galactic Council's reaction was one of shock and disbelief. The Council's leaders, who had underestimated the human resolve, were stunned by the scale and effectiveness of the attack. The outer worlds were in disarray, and the Council's attempts to mount a counteroffensive were hampered by the ongoing destruction. As the attack progressed, Earth's fleet faced some resistance. The Council's remaining forces began to regroup and launch counterattacks. However, the initial surprise and the strength of the human assault had already tilted the balance in favor of Earth. The fleet's superior technology and strategic planning allowed them to maintain the upper hand. Back on Earth, the news of the successful first strike was met with a mix of relief and pride. The planet had come together to support the mission, and the results were a testament to their collective strength and determination. People watched the reports with a sense of vindication, knowing that their efforts and sacrifices were starting to pay off. The first attack had achieved its primary objectives. The Galactic Council's outer worlds were heavily damaged, and their control over the region was significantly weakened. The human fleet had made a powerful statement, demonstrating their capability and willingness to fight back against the Council's cruelty. With the first wave of the attack complete, Earth's military leaders began to plan the next steps. The success of the initial strike had opened new opportunities and revealed the Council's vulnerabilities. The battle was far from over, but the first attack had set the stage for a prolonged and intense conflict. As Earth's forces prepared for the next phase of their campaign, the galaxy watched with bated breath. The Galactic Council had been shaken, and humanity had shown that they were a force to be reckoned with. The stage was set for an epic struggle that would determine the future of both Earth and the Galactic Council. Worlds in ruins. As Earth's assault continued, the Galactic Council's outer worlds were left in a state of devastation. The once thriving planets, which had been symbols of the Council's power and control, were now reduced to ashes and rubble. The destruction was widespread and severe, marking a turning point in the conflict. The initial attack had been swift and brutal, but the aftermath was even more harrowing. Cities that had once gleamed with advanced technology were now shattered and abandoned. The Council's infrastructure was in ruins, and the affected planets struggled to cope with the chaos left in the wake of Earth's offensive. Public buildings, power stations, and transportation networks were destroyed, leaving the planets in disarray. On the ground, the scenes of destruction were heartbreaking. Entire cities were leveled, with debris scattered across the once bustling streets. The air was filled with dust and smoke, and the sky was darkened by the remnants of explosions. The people who lived on these planets faced unimaginable hardships. They were left without homes, jobs, or basic services. The Galactic Council's attempt to maintain order and provide aid was hampered by the sheer scale of the destruction and the ongoing threat of further attacks. The Galactic Council's military forces, which had been engaged in a desperate attempt to defend their worlds, were also struggling. The human assault had taken a heavy toll on their ships and soldiers. The remnants of the Council's military were stretched thin, trying to provide relief and organize a defense against the continuing onslaught. The chaos on the ground made it difficult for them to effectively coordinate their efforts. The impact of the destruction was not limited to physical damage. The psychological toll on the inhabitants of the affected planets was immense. People who had once lived in relative peace were now faced with the trauma of loss and displacement. The Council's failure to protect their worlds and the ongoing attacks created a sense of fear and hopelessness among the population. The psychological scars of the conflict were deep, affecting both the survivors and the leaders who were struggling to manage the crisis. The destruction of the outer worlds also had significant political repercussions. The Galactic Council's authority was challenged as the people on the affected planets demanded answers and accountability. The leaders who had once been seen as all-powerful were now facing criticism and unrest. The unity of the Council was fracturing, with different factions blaming each other for the failures that had led to the current state of affairs. Humanity's relentless assault had sent a clear message. The Galactic Council was vulnerable and could be challenged. The devastation of the outer worlds was a testament to Earth's resolve and ability to inflict serious damage. The success of the initial attacks had given humanity a strategic advantage, but it had also created a complex situation that required careful management. As the destruction continued, Earth's leaders and military commanders were faced with important decisions. The focus was on maintaining the pressure on the Council while also preparing for the next phase of the conflict. The challenge was to balance the need for continued aggression with the necessity of managing the consequences of the ongoing war. The ruins of the outer world served as a grim reminder of the high stakes of the conflict. The Galactic Council's attempts to recover from the damage were hampered by the ongoing attacks and the logistical challenges of providing aid to the devastated planets. The human assault had not only inflicted physical damage, but had also shaken the very foundations of the Council's control. As the situation evolved, the galaxy watched with bated breath. The destruction of the outer worlds marked a significant turning point in the conflict. The Galactic Council was forced to confront the reality of their vulnerability, and Earth's forces continued to press their advantage. The path ahead was uncertain, but the scale of the devastation had set the stage for a prolonged and intense struggle. Humans' victory. The relentless assault on the Galactic Council's outer worlds had brought humanity to a pivotal moment. The initial wave of attacks had caused immense destruction, but now Earth's forces were on the brink of achieving a significant victory. The Galactic Council, once an imposing and feared entity, was struggling to maintain its grip as humanity pressed forward with determination and strategy. The Galactic Council's attempts to regroup and mount a defense had been in vain. The damage inflicted by Earth's forces had been severe, and their capacity to respond effectively was greatly diminished. The outer worlds, once critical to the Council's power, were now in chaos. With their resources stretched thin and their infrastructure in ruins, the Council was unable to mount a cohesive counteroffensive. Earth's military commanders, capitalizing on their momentum, began to push deeper into the Council's territory. Their strategy was to consolidate their gains and further weaken the Council's hold. The human forces moved with precision, targeting key installations and cutting off supply lines. Each successful operation added to the growing sense of victory and paved the way for future advances. The victory was not just about military success. It was also a testament to human resolve and unity. The people of Earth had rallied together to support the war effort, and their collective strength had made a significant impact. The factories, research labs, and training centers that had been mobilized for the conflict were now showing their results. The advanced technology and tactics developed during the preparation phase were proving their worth on the battlefield. The Galactic Council's leaders, faced with mounting losses and internal dissent, were forced to confront the reality of their situation. The once unassailable authority of the Council was crumbling under the pressure of Earth's relentless campaign. The leaders who had once projected confidence and control were now grappling with the possibility of defeat. The internal divisions within the Council only added to their difficulties as factions fought over the best course of action. Publicly, The Galactic Council attempted to portray a facade of resilience. They issued statements and propaganda to reassure their remaining allies and the population. However, the reality on the ground told a different story. The human forces continued their advance, and the Council's efforts to rally support and mount a defense were proving increasingly ineffective. On Earth, celebrations erupted as the news of their growing victory spread. The planet was filled with a sense of pride and accomplishment. The hard work and sacrifices of the past weeks were paying off, and the success of the campaign was a source of immense satisfaction. People from all walks of life took part in the celebrations, honoring the soldiers and leaders who had made the victory possible. The victory was also marked by a sense of cautious optimism. While the immediate success was undeniable, Earth's leaders knew that the conflict was far from over. The Galactic Council was still a formidable opponent, and the war was likely to continue. The focus was now on consolidating the gains and preparing for the next phase of the campaign. As the battle continued, Earth's forces remained vigilant. The victory was a significant achievement, but it was only one step in a larger struggle. The human forces understood that the path to a final resolution would require ongoing effort and determination. The strategic advantage gained from their recent successes would need to be maintained and expanded. In the Galactic Council's remaining strongholds, the fight back began to take shape. The Council's leaders, though weakened, were not ready to surrender. They'd regrouped and planned their next moves, hoping to turn the tide of the conflict. The war was far from over, and both sides braced for the challenges ahead. The victory on Earth's part was a remarkable achievement, demonstrating humanity's ability to rise to the occasion and challenge the once dominant Galactic Council. As the galaxy watched, it became clear that the balance of power had shifted. The struggle was ongoing, but the humans had shown that they were a force to be reckoned with. Negotiation attempts. As Earth's forces continued their impressive advance, the Galactic Council faced a growing realization. Their position was increasingly precarious. The once dominant authority was now on the defensive, and the need to address the conflict became urgent. Faced with mounting pressure, the Council decided to attempt negotiations with Earth in hopes of finding a resolution that could preserve their remaining power and prevent further devastation. The first signs of negotiation attempts came in the form of diplomatic envoys sent from the Council's headquarters. These envoys were tasked with reaching out to Earth's leaders, proposing talks to discuss a potential ceasefire and explore the possibility of a peace agreement. The Council's goal was to buy time, stabilize their position, and avoid total collapse. On Earth, the arrival of the Council's envoys was met with a mix of skepticism and cautious interest. Earth's leaders and military commanders knew that negotiations could be a strategic move by the Council to regain control or stall their advance. They approached the situation with a careful balance of openness to dialogue and readiness to continue their campaign if necessary. The initial meetings between Earth's representatives and the Council's envoys were tense. The Council's envoys, aware of the dire situation, sought to convey a willingness to negotiate while trying to maintain a facade of authority. They proposed terms that included a temporary halt to hostilities, discussions on territory and reparations, and assurances of improved treatment of Earth's citizens in the future. Earth's negotiators, however, were cautious. They had seen the consequences of the Council's cruelty and were wary of any proposals that might undermine the gains achieved through their military efforts. The human representatives sought guarantees and concrete actions rather than mere promises. They insisted on clear terms that addressed the core issues and ensured that the Council would not repeat its previous mistakes. The negotiations were marked by a series of back-and-forth discussions. The Galactic Council attempted to use their remaining leverage to negotiate terms that would allow them to retain some control and avoid complete defeat. They offered concessions on certain issues, but held firm on others, hoping to find a compromise that would allow them to maintain their influence. Earth's negotiators were firm but fair. They sought to ensure that any agreement would be beneficial and just. They pushed for significant reparations for the damage caused and guarantees of accountability for the Council's actions. The talks were not just about ending the conflict, but also about establishing a framework for future relations between Earth and the Galactic Council. As the negotiations progressed, both sides faced internal pressures. The Galactic Council's leaders faced criticism from their own ranks, with some factions demanding a more aggressive stance or outright refusal to negotiate. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders had to balance the desire for a resolution with the need to maintain public support and ensure that any agreement would be in line with their objectives. Despite the challenges, there were moments of progress. Both sides began to find common ground on certain issues, and the discussions moved towards more concrete proposals. The Council acknowledged some of the demands made by Earth, including reparations and improved treatment of Earth's citizens. In return, Earth's negotiators were open to exploring a framework for a ceasefire and potential future cooperation. The negotiation attempts were a turning point in the conflict. They represented a shift from outright military confrontation to a more diplomatic approach. The talks highlighted the complexities of resolving a conflict where both sides had deeply entrenched positions and significant stakes. The outcome of the negotiations would determine not only the immediate future, but also the long-term relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council. As the negotiations continued, the galaxy watched with anticipation. The potential for a resolution was on the horizon, but the path to peace was fraught with difficulties. Both sides needed to navigate the intricate process of diplomacy while managing their respective domestic and strategic challenges. The negotiation attempts were a testament to the evolving dynamics of the conflict. They showed that even in the midst of intense struggle, there was room for dialogue and compromise. The outcome of these talks would shape the future of the galaxy and determine the next steps for both Earth and the Galactic Council. Negotiation attempts. As Earth's forces continued their impressive advance, the Galactic Council faced a growing realization. Their position was increasingly precarious. The once dominant authority was now on the defensive, and the need to address the conflict became urgent. Faced with mounting pressure, the Council decided to attempt negotiations with Earth in hopes of finding a resolution that could preserve their remaining power and prevent further devastation. The first signs of negotiation attempts came in the form of diplomatic envoys sent from the Council's headquarters. These envoys were tasked with reaching out to Earth's leaders, proposing talks to discuss a potential ceasefire and explore the possibility of a peace agreement. The Council's goal was to buy time, stabilize their position, and avoid total collapse. On Earth, the arrival of the Council's envoys was met with a mix of skepticism and cautious interest. Earth's leaders and military commanders knew that negotiations could be a strategic move by the Council to regain control or stall their advance. They approached the situation with a careful balance of openness to dialogue and readiness to continue their campaign if necessary. The initial meetings between Earth's representatives and the Council's envoys were tense. The Council's envoys, aware of the dire situation, sought to convey a willingness to negotiate while trying to maintain a facade of authority. They proposed terms that included a temporary halt to hostilities, discussions on territory and reparations, and assurances of improved treatment of Earth's citizens in the future. Earth's negotiators, however, were cautious. They had seen the consequences of the Council's cruelty and were wary of any proposals that might undermine the gains achieved through their military efforts. The human representatives sought guarantees and concrete actions rather than mere promises. They insisted on clear terms that addressed the core issues and ensured that the Council would not repeat its previous mistakes. The negotiations were marked by a series of back-and-forth discussions. The Galactic Council attempted to use their remaining leverage to negotiate terms that would allow them to retain some control and avoid complete defeat. They offered concessions on certain issues, but held firm on others, hoping to find a compromise that would allow them to maintain their influence. Earth's negotiators were firm but fair. They sought to ensure that any agreement would be beneficial and just. They pushed for significant reparations for the damage caused and guarantees of accountability for the Council's actions. The talks were not just about ending the conflict, but also about establishing a framework for future relations between Earth and the Galactic Council. As the negotiations progressed, both sides faced internal pressures. The Galactic Council's leaders faced criticism from their own ranks, with some factions demanding a more aggressive stance or outright refusal to negotiate. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders had to balance the desire for a resolution with the need to maintain public support and ensure that any agreement would be in line with their objectives. Despite the challenges, there were moments of progress. Both sides began to find common ground on certain issues, and the discussions moved towards more concrete proposals. The Council acknowledged some of the demands made by Earth, including reparations and improved treatment of Earth's citizens. In return, Earth's negotiators were open to exploring a framework for a ceasefire and potential future cooperation. The negotiation attempts were a turning point in the conflict. They represented a shift from outright military confrontation to a more diplomatic approach. The talks highlighted the complexities of resolving a conflict where both sides had deeply entrenched positions and significant stakes. The outcome of the negotiations would determine not only the immediate future, but also the long-term relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council. As the negotiations continued, the galaxy watched with anticipation. The potential for a resolution was on the horizon, but the path to peace was fraught with difficulties. Both sides needed to navigate the intricate process of diplomacy while managing their respective domestic and strategic challenges. The negotiation attempts were a testament to the evolving dynamics of the conflict. They showed that even in the midst of intense struggle, there was room for dialogue and compromise. The outcome of these talks would shape the future of the galaxy and determine the next steps for both Earth and the Galactic Council. A new galaxy. The negotiations between Earth and the Galactic Council had reached a turning point. After intense discussions and complex bargaining, both sides had agreed to terms that would bring an end to the conflict and set the stage for a new era of relations. The galaxy, once marked by war and destruction, was now on the brink of a transformative change. With the ceasefire officially declared, the immediate hostilities ceased. Earth's forces began to withdraw from the Galactic Council's outer worlds, and the Council's military operations were scaled back. The terms of the agreement were designed to address the grievances that had fueled the conflict and lay the groundwork for future cooperation. The agreement included significant reparations from the Council to Earth for the destruction caused during the conflict. This included financial compensation and the provision of advanced technology and resources. The Council also committed to ensuring that their treatment of Earth's citizens would be fair and respectful, marking a shift from their previous policies. In addition to the reparations, both sides agreed to establish a framework for ongoing dialogue and cooperation. A new intergalactic council was proposed, where Earth would have a significant voice. This new council aimed to foster peaceful relations, promote mutual interests, and prevent future conflicts. It was a symbol of the shift from confrontation to collaboration. As the news of the peace agreement spread, there was a sense of cautious optimism throughout the galaxy. The devastation of the conflict had left scars, but the promise of a new era offered hope. The inhabitants of the affected worlds began the arduous process of rebuilding. The focus shifted from the destruction of the past to the possibilities of the future. On Earth, the mood was one of relief and celebration. The planet had weathered a tremendous challenge and emerged victorious. The people took pride in their achievements and looked forward to the opportunities that the new era would bring. The government and military leaders were praised for their efforts, and there was a renewed sense of unity and purpose. The Galactic Council, while weakened, was beginning to adapt to the new reality. The leaders, though facing internal criticism, recognized the need to embrace change. The formation of the new Intergalactic Council was seen as an opportunity to rebuild their standing and contribute positively to the galaxy. The Council's approach shifted from dominance to diplomacy, reflecting the lessons learned from the recent conflict. The impact of the peace agreement extended beyond Earth and the Galactic Council. Other galactic civilizations watched closely, taking note of the new dynamics. The potential for a more cooperative and interconnected galaxy became a reality. The conflict had shown that even the most entrenched power structures could be challenged and transformed. In the wake of the agreement, efforts were made to address the broader consequences of the war. Humanitarian aid was provided to the affected worlds, and reconstruction projects were initiated. The focus was on healing the wounds inflicted by the conflict and fostering a sense of shared purpose. As the new Intergalactic Council began its work, it faced the challenge of navigating the complex relationships between various civilizations. The goal was to build a framework that would ensure lasting peace and cooperation. The success of this endeavor would depend on the willingness of all parties to collaborate and address the diverse needs and interests of the galaxy. The new era marked a significant shift in the galaxy's history. The lessons learned from the conflict paved the way for a more inclusive and cooperative future. The transition from war to peace was not without its challenges, but the promise of a new beginning offered hope and possibilities. As Earth and the Galactic Council embarked on this new chapter, the galaxy watched with anticipation. The conflict had demonstrated the power of resilience and diplomacy. The creation of a new Intergalactic Council represented a commitment to building a better future, where cooperation and mutual respect would guide the interactions between civilizations. In the end, the resolution of the conflict and the establishment of a new galaxy were testaments to the enduring spirit of humanity and the potential for positive change in even the most difficult circumstances. The future was bright with promise, and the galaxy looked forward to a new era of peace and collaboration.